a repair shop, to be used when winter came and all the things that needed fixing could be attended to when the weather made outside work impossible. The road to the cabin was in sorry shape and needed to be graded and packed with base course so it could be used year-round. New fences would have to be thrown up to segregate the land into pastures to prevent overgrazing, and a new corral and loading chute were necessary, but all in all, one man could handle it, if he was willing to work 16-hour days and forego time off for a couple of years. With federal grazing rights, he could run several hundred head of cattle and maybe make a small profit once the operation was up and running. Kerney shook off the daydream. It was foolish to think that he could ever raise enough cash to buy such prime land, and the owner would be an idiot to sell. He would have to settle for a lot less when the time came to put his money down and get back to the business of ranching. He popped the clutch and drove over the rutted tracks that led to the cabin. From horseback on the ridge, Phil Cox watched the lime-green Forest Service pickup as it traveled across the field, bouncing in the deep furrows of the ranch road. The driver slowed several times to keep from spooking the cattle that wandered into his path. That was enough to tell Phil that Charlie Perry wasn't driving. Whenever possible, Charlie used his horn with perverse pleasure to run a few pounds off Phil's beef. Charlie believed cattle grazing was destroying the national forest. He wanted the Gila pristine and pure from boundary to boundary. No cattle, no private land, and no ranchers to mess up the wilderness. Phil didn't recognize the man who parked next to his horse trailer and limped to the cabin fence. After a dozen or so steps, his gait smoothed out a bit. Phil hollered, got the ranger's attention, and nudged his horse down the trail, leading a saddled gelding. He wondered who in the hell the Glenwood station had sent to meet him. The ranger waved a greeting as Phil approached. Phil dismounted, hitched the horses to the back of the trailer, and walked to the ranger. "I don't believe we've met. I'm Phil Cox." "Kevin Kerney," the man replied, grasping Cox's hand. "You're a hell of a way off the beaten path." Phil nodded. "True enough. The Forest Service would love to buy me out and retire my grazing rights." He judged Kerney to be in his early 40s. His features were strong and his skin was weathered, with fine lines at the corner of deep blue eyes. "I won't do it." "Neither would I," Kerney replied as he looked around. With no evidence of a holding pen or a loading chute in the shallow valley, there was only one way to get the cattle in and out. "Do you move your stock on the hoof?" he asked. Phil smiled. Maybe the ranger wasn't a complete idiot. "That's right. I use the Triple H pens down on the flats for loading. It takes a couple of days to herd them out, but it's fenced most of the way, so we don't have to chase a lot of strays." "About 200 head?" Kerney guessed. Phil Cox, a slender man with bushy eyebrows and light brown hair, matched Kerney's 6'1" frame, minus about 10 pounds. His eyes were slate-gray, and he had a dimple in his square chin. He was in his late 30s, but his voice sounded younger. "Give or take a few with the new calves," Cox agreed. "I could run more on land higher up if I had a mind to, but when the Forest Service raised the grazing fees, I cut back. I was expecting Charlie Perry to show up." "He's supervising a prescribed burn in the Blue Range, so you're stuck with me." "New to the district?" Cox asked. Kerney nodded. "They sent me down from the Luna station to fill in until Charlie gets back." "I thought I knew all the Luna Rangers. I'm temporary help." Phil nodded to encourage more of an explanation. With the cutbacks in funding, hiring seasonal help was now standard operating procedure for the Forest Service, but commissioned rangers were usually career employees. Kerney didn't volunteer any additional information. "What can I do for you, Mr. Cox?" he asked instead. "I'm not sure you can do anything at all," Phil replied. "I found a bear carcass I thought Charlie Perry would like to take a look at." "Poachers?" Kerney asked. "Maybe," Phil allowed. Kerney nodded. He limped to his truck, opened the door, took out a small day pack and a handheld radio, and returned to where Phil waited. "Let's go take a look." Phil Cox gestured at the gelding as he